Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is INX Prime Live. Remember, we are on your screens every single Monday to Friday between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Now, the rise of extortion rackets have continued to plague the country, especially in our rural areas. Now, areas of the Eastern Cape, like Mthatha, have been identified as hotspots where syndicates terrorize communities, demanding a thing called protection fees. Now, in the latest tragedy, a principal of a school was actually shot dead after he refused to demand refused a demand of about 20% of all the school fees. And to chat more about this, we're actually going to be chatting to Mike Bolhuis. Now, he is a crime expert, and he joins us now to help us make sense of this trend and how best to actually combat it. Good evening, Mike. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, it's such a pleasure chatting to you, and I really want to get into this conversation. You know, it's quite a difficult conversation to have as well, because we know that there's been a lot of kidnappings. We know about the construction mafia. We know about now the school mafia as well. And we have seen the reports of businesses closing down, more specifically in the province of the Eastern Cape. Now, recently, one of the Ultra petrol stations were actually forced to close down because of extortion demands of up to about 500,000 or R500,000 rand. What is the modus operandi of these gangs?
It is absolutely shocking, and it's hard sore to constantly give this information to the public, where it upsets them. But we have to be positively paranoid, and we have to be aware, and that's why it's good to hear the news and to know what's going on about you. So all of this is a form of hijacking a specific situation, whether it is a building site, whether it's a business, whether it's anything that's got to do with valuables, monies where people could be extorted. This could be kidnapping, held as a valuable, and you get your valuable family member back when you pay for it. Whether it's your car, they'll even have corrupt officials involved in saying they found your car, they want these and these fees, and you get your car back, or your car gets just chopped up and stolen in parts, or sold in parts, or just sold. Whether it's a business that is infiltrated by maybe disgruntled staff or previous staff, or groups outside that has evaluated this business as a valuable to be raided and to be extorted and then infiltrated, and all goes hand in hand, obviously, with careful planning, intimidation, and extortion. And then even to the biggest that we know of, which is the construction mafia, all of them are on the same, done on the same basis. It's an infiltration, a thorough investigation by the criminals, knowing what's the value of whatever is going to happen there or is there, and then infiltrating in a way of extreme intimidation and violence in order to move those involved to pay them. Otherwise, they will destruct, burn, and even murder. Just a small explanation of how construction mafia and all of these works is, they will even influence family members, staff, and obviously workers and everybody involved in this business. And all of them will be threatened, whether it's by schools, whether it's the children coming home from schools, whether it's domestic workers, whether it's construction workers, no matter what the person is, whomever is tied to this valuable entity will be threatened and intimidated.
No, without a doubt. And I did see a stat that came up quite recently saying that, in terms of the construction space and anything to do with buildings, within the first, about 70% of these projects you will have some form of a case of extortion happening within the first 7 days of them actually starting the project, which is a very quick issue and something that's growing exponentially. I mean, we're seeing these guys come in and not leaving until they get what they want. I just want to talk about the spike, though. Let's talk about the spike of these cases, because we did mention it is quite a lot. As much as it's a high intensity, it's also a large amount of cases. Now, the spike of cases in extortion, in these extortion cases, speaks to an ongoing trend. Or is it something that has come to light only because of all of the stuff we hear on X about the kidnappings or media reports that come up all the time?
No. Crime begets crime. If a crime works, criminals will join. If a specific crime works, even more will join. So let me explain it this way. If there are some gangsters and syndicates and criminals just doing home robberies and petty thefts and handbag and cell phone thefts and stuff like that, and they see that, but listen, let's take this person and hold this person, kidnap this person, and get much more, because we can get away with it. Yes, we do hear of it. Yes, we do read of it, but we see that it works. Because later, obviously, you will ask, but what's the solution and what does the authorities do? And we all go out of our way to try and prevent these crimes and investigate them. But the criminals sees one thing, and that is the value of any and everybody in front of them and how they can get not only the handbag, not only the cell phone, but the car and the person, everything that's in the bank accounts, because they see that it works and they can get away with it. Yeah. Other issues that really supports these, well, shall I not say support, but is the reason why these criminals are escalating in their crimes, is because they have no fear towards the public whatsoever. They know the public is presently in a paranoid state. They're living in fear, and they're vulnerable, and they are easy targets. They also don't fear the authorities. We have a good new government that really wants to make a difference, and the police is going out of their way, and we must give them a chance and support them. But they do not fear or respect the police. They have the advantage because they are the first ones at the scene. So they have the complete advantage. The authorities and those in public that assist afterwards, and government, only come in afterwards. So they have the total upper hand. And then obviously poverty plays a role. But when a person is poor, very, very poor, he will steal his neighbor's chicken because he has to eat. But the mindset turns there, because he can get away with the next time he's going to steal something bigger and more. And that's what's happened in our country. Stealing is becoming a way of an excuse, saying, but this country has fallen, it is corrupt, the government's corrupt, everybody is corrupt, everybody is doing. So the complete mindset of many people has changed, unfortunately. But there's still more good people than bad people, that I can assure you.
No, definitely, without a doubt. And it is quite a concern. I mean, I just want to go back to the kidnapping aspect of it, and we are hearing about these syndicates, but there's a lot of reports coming out that says that the syndicates actually are very well organized. They actually know exactly who to target when they do actually kidnap them. They take care of the person like actually in a 5-star hotel, give them the best food, whatever. But they know exactly how much is in people's bank accounts. They know all of this information. The fact that they have this level of intelligence, it speaks to the fact that, maybe perhaps the police are involved. There's a lot of intelligence involved as well. So we definitely need to have those conversations. But just talking about the police, though, we know that the police say that they are cracking down on these syndicates in the same way. In your opinion, what is the best way to combat these syndicates?
Everything you've said there is true. The criminals, they are opportunistic, but they're also clever today. The cell phone and digital and electronic communications is being used by the syndicates and criminals. So they take advantage of that. And they have their contacts in cell phone companies. They have their contacts in banks. They have their contacts in the authorities, in security companies, everywhere. They are very strong. They can be patient. They can work a thing out, plan it properly, and leave no forensic information behind when they do commit all of these big and heinous crimes, never mind just kidnappings. But the authorities, we must give the police a chance. In this new government, I am hopeful. In them, I'm hopeful. We pray for them and we support them fully. And I believe a lot of people has risen up and is standing up and is trying to make a difference. We need information from the public. We need whistleblowers. We need a proper, thorough information informant infrastructure that are paid well and looked after. We need to give the police a chance. We need to identify those who really want to protect and serve and support them with information. We must stand our ground. We have seen the authorities saying every now and then that you have the right to act as a person in the public if your life is in the utmost danger, that you can defend yourself. And the authorities have said to their own policemen and said, the policemen must use their firearms if they are in danger. So the criminals need to be brought down. And there are many, many more, much more good people. There's maybe a percentage of all the people in our country. Just work it out. Say for instance, there's 80 million people. 1% of that, how much is that? So say, for instance, the most serious gangsters are 1%. It still leaves 99% of good people that can really step forward, stand together in whichever way they can to assist the authorities to stand against crime. And that is the solution. We need to prevent crime. It's no use we come to the scene afterwards when everybody has been robbed, stolen, everything has been burned down, everything has been taken, everybody is in absolute paranoia or murdered or in extreme fear. We need to prevent crime. The only way to prevent crime is when the public in its totality stand up and rise against crime. That's the only way.
No, without a doubt. I mean, we have to be proactive and definitely not reactive at all. And it's definitely one of the things that I think the new GNU is focusing on as well as a government of national unity. But I want to just look at something, and I'm actually looking at the stats right now. It is the first crime stats that came in by our police minister as well. Now, he did present it on last week, Friday. And I just want to look at some of these. I mean, just looking at some of these numbers, they are quite horrible. You know, they're still quite shockingly high when we're looking at murders sitting at about 12,000 within the period of this review alone. You know, what is your feeling regarding the overall crime rate? Do you think it's eventually going to go down, or are we just going to have the same repetition for the rest of our lives?
Look, the criminals out there is going for it. They're running this race to win it. They want to hijack this country. And if they can, they will. If they can completely control this country, completely control the authorities, like at a stage Colombia, I tell you, they will do it. If they at a stage can completely turn communities and societies and people in this country to fall under their criminal reign, that's what they're steering at. They're lawless. They have no qualms in committing any form of crime. I mean, if the crimes we see and what we see on TV and in the news, it's like you say, it's enormous. And remember, most of the serious violent crimes against women, rapes, child molestation, and crimes against the elderly aren't necessarily reported. One maybe out of 100 women will, get it together with some hope that she might be helped and go to the authorities. But most women just, unfortunately, it's become the narrative that they just bear it. If we look at the sexual crimes against women and children, it is horrific. Most don't come forward because out of shame, because out of fear, because of what they know of the authorities, how long it will take. The parties might get bail, fear, intimidation. What would the people say, the people at school? If I have to give an expose of what a raped youngster has gone through, you will not sleep tonight. And the same with the woman, and the same with the elderly. There are many, many cases that aren't reported, especially in the rural and in the very poor, poverty-stricken areas, because they just don't have go-to guys to go to. And so in our whole country. So the statistics are reasonable, but not, in my opinion, it's not totally correct. It's much, much more.
Yeah, no, it's shocking and really disappointing, and I'm glad that you shared this with us so that it can also give more awareness to our audience as well as to how bad it actually is, because the stats don't always give a clear indication of what's really happening in the country. Like you did mention, a lot of people don't disclose these things. You know, we are getting comments and questions coming in from social media. We do have actually a comment from someone who wants to stay anonymous, and I mean rightfully so, but he says that he has a construction company for quite a while, and he's been approached by the construction mafia and a lot of extortion gangs, you know, at least 7 or 8 times within the last 6 months alone. I wanted to just, based on that comment alone, what is your advice to a business that has actually been approached by an extortion gang?
Well, first of all, he's already in it. So it's going to be very difficult for him to get out of it. But he must seek out the authorities in his area that he really trusts. And he's going to have to work together with the authorities and with the public to see if he can solve it. When all else fails, he can always call us, we will assist. But here's what I say to all people in business. Before you do any form of business or construction, 6 months before, you must do a proper identification, evaluation. You must do a risk analysis, an absolute platform cybercrime track tracing forensic profile investigation of your area. You need to know exactly what's going on in that area. You need to know that those criminals are going to come for you, but you need to know before exactly how it works and who they will be. And then you have to have safety and security measures in place before. Because if they're in once, it's very difficult to get them out. And this is what this country will have to look at. And a businessman must be, and businessmen must be prepared to rather spend before for extreme safety and security than being involved when they start. Once they start the building and they come in and they hijack or burn the trucks or start kidnapping people or, intimidating those who come to work and closing the gates. All of that. Just think of the worst that can happen, which they know, which has happened to other businesses as well, and which we read. And then pay much, much more. It's better to do absolute and extreme crime prevention. And there is now a way to seek the courts, the assistance of the courts, to assist with the authorities and the police. And if that 6 months before proper investigation, evaluation, profile and everything has been done, then the authorities also know, which they most probably know of. But then they know that this businessmen, the authorities, the police and the courts are already in place, already with the necessary documents, that if somebody just does something wrong, the necessary interdicts and documents is already in place in order to remove. There are good specialized bodyguard security companies that can really stand against these gangsters and criminals. And with the authorities and with this new policing infrastructure that we have, I believe if the police really puts their foot down with us, the public, the private sector, private investigators, specialist investigators, the public and the courts, we can turn this whole thing around. We can prevent them from coming in.
Yeah, you play such an important role, Mike. And again, thank you so much for your time tonight. Hopefully we do end up seeing more business people in every single space prepare for this, like you did mention. And we also want to see less projects being, stopped because of this construction mafia, because it has a domino effect on our economy and on employment and so many other things as well. But again, Mike, thank you so much for joining us this evening on INX Prime Live.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. God bless you all. Go well.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you so much, guys. That is Mike Bolhuis, who is a crime expert, just sharing with us the importance of preparing well for all of these different extortion gangs, especially the protection fees that they're demanding on businesses that are crippling our economy without a doubt.